General Sora stood in the great hall of the orbital station called Unity. It was the largest diplomatic center in human space, built specifically for moments like this. The ceiling stretched high above, made of transparent material that showed the stars beyond. Flags from every human colony hung on the walls, representing the unity of a species that had once been divided by borders and wars. Today, history was being made. The Valari delegation entered through the main doors. Supreme Commander Keth led them, walking slowly with his head down. Behind him came his senior officers, all of them wearing expressions of defeat and confusion. They had expected to conquer Earth. Instead, they were here to surrender. Sora watched them approach with a mix of emotions. Part of her felt satisfaction. The species that had terrorized her ancestors was now bowing before humanity. Part of her felt pity. They looked lost, like children who had wandered into a world they didn't understand. Supreme Commander Keth, Sora said formally. Welcome to Unity Station. Keth looked up at her with his 4 yellow eyes. The arrogance was gone. The fire had been replaced by something colder and sadder. General Sora, he replied. I thank you for meeting with us. They sat at opposite ends of a long table. Human officers lined one side, Valari on the other. Admiral Taiho, Commander Hannah, Captain Minho, and Ambassador Yuna were all present, representing different aspects of human power. Let us begin, Sora said. You came here to conquer us. That is no longer possible. The question now is what happens next. Keth nodded slowly. We accept defeat. The Valari Empire will sign whatever term you demand. We ask only that you spare our people. We never intended to harm your people, Sora replied. We're not conquerors. We don't want your worlds or your resources. We've built enough of our own. The Valari officers looked confused. One of them spoke up hesitantly. Then, what do you want from us? Understanding, Sora said simply. 3,000 years ago, your ancestors came to Earth. They looked at us like we were insects. They made us feel small and afraid. Do you know what that did to us? Keth shook his head. It made us determined, Sora continued. We looked at the stars and decided that we would never be weak again. We built and invented and fought and grew because we were scared. You scared us into becoming what we are today. She let that sink in before continuing. We don't want revenge. Revenge is wasteful. What we want is peace. Real, lasting peace. We want to share the galaxy, not rule it. We've learned that power means nothing if you have no one to share it with. Keth stared at her for a long moment. You could destroy us completely. Why don't you? Because destroying you would make us no better than you were 3,000 years ago, Sora answered. We've moved beyond that. We want to build, not destroy. We want to explore, not conquer. The universe is vast enough for all of us. Admiral Taiho leaned forward. What the general is saying is that we want partners, not subjects. The Valari Empire has technology and knowledge from thousands of years of space travel. You have history and culture that we've never seen. We could learn from each other. Learn from us? Keth seemed genuinely surprised. But you are so much more advanced than we are. In some ways, Taiho admitted. But advancement isn't everything. You've been traveling the stars far longer than we have. You've seen things we've never imagined. That has value. Commander Hannah nodded. We've also learned that isolation is dangerous. The Valari stayed apart from other species because they thought they were superior. We did the same thing for a while. Both of us were wrong. The galaxy is stronger when different species work together. Keth sat in silence, processing everything he was hearing. His officers exchanged confused glances. This was not what they had expected. They had prepared for humiliation, for harsh demands, for punishment. Instead, they were being offered friendship. I don't understand, Keth finally said. We threatened to destroy you. We called you primitive. We insulted your entire species. How can you offer us peace after that? General Sora smiled softly. Because we remember what it's like to be afraid. 3,000 years ago, your ships appeared in our sky, and we thought the world was ending. We felt that terror. We won't force anyone else to feel it if we don't have to. She stood up and walked around the table until she was standing directly in front of Keth. The Valari commander tensed. But Sora only extended her hand. The truce is over, she said. That's true. But truces are temporary agreements between enemies. What we're offering is something different. An alliance. A partnership. A chance to move forward together instead of apart. Keth looked at her hand. In Valari culture, physical contact between species was rare and meaningful. He understood what she was offering. Not just peace, but trust. Slowly, he reached out and took her hand. His grip was firm but careful, as if he was afraid of breaking something precious. I accept, Keth said quietly. On behalf of the Valari Empire, I accept your offer of alliance. Applause filled the room. Human and Valari officers stood up, a mixture of relief and hope on their faces. The war that never was had ended with something no one had predicted. The beginning of a new friendship. Later that evening, after the formal ceremonies were complete, General Sora stood alone by a window in her quarters. She looked out at the stars, thinking about everything that had happened. Captain Minho found her there. General, he said, you should be celebrating with the others. I will, Sora replied. I just needed a moment. What are you thinking about? Sora was quiet for a long time before answering. I'm thinking about our ancestors. The ones who saw the Valari ships 3,000 years ago. They were so scared. They had no idea if they would survive the night. But they did survive, Minho said. They did. And because they survived, we're here today. Everything we've built, everything we've achieved, it all started because they refused to give up. They looked at something terrifying and decided to keep going anyway. Minho nodded. That's what humans do. We survive. We adapt. We grow. Yes, Sora agreed. And now we have a chance to share that spirit with others. The Valari aren't our enemies anymore. They're our partners. Maybe one day they'll learn what we learned. That strength isn't about being the biggest or the most powerful. It's about having the courage to change. She turned away from the window and smiled at Minho. Come on, let's go celebrate. We've earned it. They walked together toward the celebration hall, where music and laughter were already filling the air. Humans and Valari stood side by side, talking and sharing stories. It was an awkward beginning, but it was a beginning nonetheless. Outside the station, the stars continued to shine. The galaxy was vast and full of mysteries. Somewhere out there, other species were watching, wondering what had happened to the arrogant Valari who had declared war on humanity. They would learn soon enough. The humans hadn't just won a war. They had won something far more valuable. They had proven that power without wisdom was meaningless. That mercy was stronger than hatred. That the future belonged to those who could build bridges. Instead of burning them, the 3,000-year truce was over, but something better had taken its place. A new chapter in galactic history had begun, and humanity would be at the center of it. Not as conquerors or destroyers, but as teachers, partners, and friends. The scared farmers who had once bowed to alien visitors were now leading the way toward a brighter future. And somewhere in the void, the universe itself seemed to smile. The Valari fleet moved through the darkness of space like a swarm of metal insects. 500 ships, each one bristling with weapons and filled with warriors eager for battle. At the head of the formation flew the flagship, the Eternal Conquest, carrying Supreme Commander Keth himself. Keth sat on his throne, watching the stars pass by through the observation window. He was pleased with how things were going. The humans had not responded to his declaration of war. They were probably too scared to speak. Perhaps they were already fighting among themselves, panicking at the thought of Valari warships descending upon their primitive world. "How long until we reach Earth?" Keth asked his navigation officer. "3 more days, Supreme Commander." "We are making excellent time." Keth smiled, showing his rows of sharp teeth. 3 days, and then the conquest would begin. He imagined human slaves building monuments to Valari glory. He imagined their resources fueling his empire's expansion. He imagined himself as the greatest conqueror in Valari history. "Sir," another officer spoke up suddenly. "We're receiving a transmission. From our command back home?" "No, sir. From ahead of us. From human space." Keth's 4 eyes narrowed. "Put it through." The main screen flickered to life. A human face appeared. It was a young male with dark hair and calm eyes. He wore a military uniform covered in medals and insignias that Keth did not recognize. "Greetings," the human said. "I am Captain Minho of the United Earth Fleet. I've been asked to deliver a response to your declaration of war." Keth leaned forward, curious. "Speak, human. Have you come to beg for mercy?" Minho smiled. It was not the smile of a frightened creature. It was the smile of someone who knew a joke that no one else understood. "No," Minho said. "I've come to give you a chance to reconsider." Keth laughed. The bridge crew laughed with him. The idea of humans offering them a chance to reconsider was absurd. "You dare to threaten us?" Keth demanded. "We are the Valari Empire. We have conquered hundreds of worlds. Your species was still eating dirt when we first came to your planet." "That was 3,000 years ago," Minho replied calmly. "Things have changed." "Nothing has changed. Humans are weak. You are prey." Minho's smile grew wider. "Then let me show you something. Consider it a gift." The screen changed. Instead of Minho's face, it showed an image of space. But this space was different from anything Keth had ever seen. Ships filled the view. Human ships. Thousands of them. They stretched across the void in perfect formation, their hulls gleaming under distant starlight. Battleships larger than anything Keth had ever imagined. Carriers that could swallow his entire fleet. Destroyers that moved with impossible speed. And this was just one fleet. Text appeared at the bottom of the image. Defense Fleet 7, one of 42 active defense fleets. Keth felt his blood turn cold. The image changed again. Now it showed weapon systems firing at a test range. Beams of energy cut through asteroids like they were made of paper. Missiles destroyed entire moons in single explosions. Something that looked like a small sun erupted and consumed everything around it for millions of kilometers. More text. Standard military weapon systems. Not classified. Keth's hands gripped the arms of his throne so tightly that his claws dug into the metal. The image changed one more time. Now it showed a map of human space. Blue dots covered the display, marking colonies, stations, and fleet positions. There were thousands of them. They spread across a vast section of the galaxy, far larger than the Valari Empire had ever controlled. "This is humanity," Minho's voice said over the images. "This is what we became while you were sleeping. We didn't stay in the mud, Keth. We reached for the stars. And we grabbed them." The screen returned to Minho's face. He was still smiling, but now there was something harder in his eyes. "You're bringing 500 ships to attack us. We have over 80,000. Your weapons can barely scratch our shields. Our basic infantry rifles are more powerful than your ship cannons. You are not coming to conquer us. You are coming to die. Kath wanted to speak, but no words came. His mind was struggling to process what he had seen. It was impossible. Humans were primitive. They were weak. They were nothing. But, Minho continued, we are not cruel. We don't want to destroy you. We're giving you one chance to turn around and go home. Withdraw your fleet. Cancel your declaration of war. Apologize for your threats. Do this, and we will let you live. The bridge was completely silent. Every Valari officer stared at the screen with wide eyes. Fear filled the room like a cold fog. You have 24 hours to decide, Minho said. After that, we will consider your approach an act of war, and we will respond accordingly. I hope you make the right choice. The screen went black. For a long moment, no one moved. Keth sat frozen on his throne, his mind racing. Everything he had believed was wrong. The humans weren't prey. They were predators. The worst kind of predators. The kind that let you think you were winning until the trap was already closed. Supreme Commander, one of his officers whispered. What do we do? Keth didn't answer. He couldn't answer. His entire life, he had been taught that the Valari were the greatest species in the galaxy, that they were destined to rule, that no one could challenge them, but the humans had challenged them, and they had done it with a smile on their face. Sir, another officer said, his voice shaking, our sensors are detecting something. Multiple contacts, coming from all directions. Keth looked at the tactical display. Red dots were appearing around his fleet. Dozens of them. Then hundreds. Human ships were emerging from faster-than-light travel, surrounding the Valari fleet in a perfect sphere. They had been watching the whole time. They had let the Valari come this far on purpose. And now they were showing their teeth. How many? Keth asked, his voice barely a whisper. Over 3,000 ships, sir. And more are arriving. 3,000 ships. Against 500. And these were just the ones they were showing. The image Minho had sent suggested there were tens of thousands more waiting in reserve. Keth finally understood. This was never a war. This was a demonstration. The humans weren't afraid of the Valari. They were amused by them. They had let them come all this way, just to teach them a lesson. Open a channel, Keth said quietly. To the human fleet. Channel open, sir. Keth took a deep breath. His pride screamed at him to fight, to die with honor. But his mind told him something different. Fighting here would not be honorable. It would be stupid. His entire fleet would be destroyed in minutes, and the Valari Empire would lose everything. This is Supreme Commander Keth, he said slowly. I wish to speak with your admiral about terms. There was a pause. Then, a new face appeared on screen. An older human male with gray hair and kind eyes. Despite the situation, he looked almost sympathetic. I am Admiral Taiho, the human said. I'm glad you decided to talk, Commander. There's been enough misunderstanding already. Let's not add bloodshed to the list. Keth lowered his head. For the first time in his life, a Valari Supreme Commander bowed to another species. What are your terms? He asked. Taiho smiled gently. Let's start with a conversation. I think we have a lot to discuss about how the galaxy has changed in the last 3,000 years. The trap had closed. But instead of death, it offered something unexpected. A chance to learn. A chance to survive. And perhaps, eventually, a chance to understand why humans had become what they were. Commander Hannah worked through the night. Her eyes were tired, but her mind was sharp. She sat in the intelligence center of the command ship, surrounded by screens and data streams. Her job was simple but important. Gather every piece of information about humanity's military power and put it into one presentation. The Council wanted to show the Valari what they were facing. Hannah intended to make that presentation unforgettable. "Computer, display current fleet status," she said. The screen in front of her lit up with numbers and images. Ships of every size and type appeared, rotating slowly in three-dimensional models. Battleships as large as cities. Carriers that could hold thousands of smaller fighters. Destroyers fast enough to cross solar systems in minutes. Hannah smiled as she looked at them. These were not the wooden boats of 3,000 years ago. These were engines of war, built by a species that had turned survival into an art form. "Show me the Titan class," she commanded. A massive ship appeared on screen. It was over 50 kilometers long, covered in armor plates and weapon systems. Its main cannon could fire beams of concentrated energy powerful enough to crack a moon in half. There were 12 Titan-class ships in human service, and each one was capable of destroying an entire enemy fleet by itself. "Now show me the numbers," Hannah said. Text appeared beside the image. Active battleships, 3,400. Active carriers, 1,200. Active destroyers, 12,000. Active cruisers, 8,500. Active support. Vessels, 25,000 total active. Fleet, 50,100 plus vessels reserve. Fleet, 30,000 plus vessels. Under construction, 5,000 vessels. Hannah nodded with satisfaction. The Valari were bringing 500 ships. Humanity had over 80,000 ready to fight, but numbers weren't everything. Hannah knew that technology mattered just as much. She switched to the weapons database. "Show me our primary weapon systems," she said. The display changed to show various weapons. Plasma cannons that could melt through any known armor. Missile systems carrying warheads that could level entire cities. Railguns that fired metal slugs at speeds close to light. Energy shields that could absorb attacks that would destroy planets. And then there were the special weapons. The ones humanity hoped it would never have to use. "Display the Nova Protocol," Hannah whispered. A warning message appeared. "Classified material. Authorization required." "Authorization. Commander Hannah, code 77 Blue Star." The screen cleared and new images appeared. They showed a weapon system unlike any other. It was called the Nova Bomb, and it was exactly what it sounded like. A device that could turn a star into a supernova, destroying everything in an entire solar system within minutes. Humanity had built 12 of them. They were stored in secret locations, protected by the heaviest security in existence. No one wanted to use them. They existed only as a last resort, a final option if humanity ever faced total destruction. Hannah stared at the image for a long moment. The Valari had no idea that humans possessed weapons capable of ending civilizations. They thought they were attacking farmers. They were actually threatening a species that had learned to kill stars. "Close file," Hannah said quietly. She spent the next few hours compiling everything into a single presentation. Ships, weapons, defense, systems, colonies, resources, manufacturing capabilities. Everything that showed how far humanity had come in 3,000 years. When she finished, it was morning. The artificial lights in the ship had shifted to simulate daylight. Hannah stretched her tired muscles and called Admiral Taiho. "Sir, the presentation is ready." "Excellent. Bring it to the war room. The council is assembling." Hannah arrived at the war room 15 minutes later. The council members were already there, their holographic images flickering around the central table. Admiral Taiho stood at the head, looking as calm as always. "Commander Hannah has prepared a comprehensive overview of our military capabilities," Taiho announced. "This is what we will show the Valari. Commander, please begin." Hannah took a deep breath and activated the presentation. The first image showed Earth as it was 3,000 years ago. Small villages, simple farms, humans in basic clothing, using tools made of stone and wood. This is what the Valari remember, Hana said. This is the humanity they think they're attacking. She pressed a button and the image changed. Now it showed Earth as it existed today. Massive cities covered the continents, their towers reaching into the clouds. Flying vehicles filled the skies. Orbital stations circled the planet like a ring of steel. It was a world transformed beyond recognition. This is humanity now, Hana continued. In 3,000 years, we went from caves to castles. From castles to cities. From cities to planets. From planets to stars. She showed them the colonies. Hundreds of worlds across the galaxy, each one home to billions of humans. Mining operations on asteroids. Research stations in the void between stars. Military bases positioned at strategic points throughout known space. We don't just live on Earth anymore, Hana explained. We live everywhere. We are everywhere. Then she showed them the fleet. Ship after ship appeared on the display, each one more impressive than the last. The council members watched in silence, even though they already knew these numbers. Seeing it all together was something else entirely. The Valari are bringing 500 ships, Hana said. We have 50,000 active vessels and 30,000 in reserve. We could lose every ship we send against them and still have enough left over to defend our entire territory. She showed them the weapons, the plasma cannons, the railguns, the shield systems. Each one was centuries ahead of anything the Valari possessed. Our basic infantry weapons, she said, showing a standard human rifle, are more powerful than their ship-mounted cannons. Our personal shields can resist attacks that would destroy their armored vehicles. Captain Minho whistled low. We really have come a long way. There's more, Hana said. Our medical technology can heal wounds in seconds. Our soldiers can fight for days without rest thanks to biological enhancements. Our communications are instant across any distance. Our sensors can detect a ship halfway across the galaxy. She paused before the final section. And then there are the weapons we hope never to use. She showed them the Nova bombs. The room fell completely silent. These can destroy entire star systems, Hana explained softly. We built them because we learned that the universe is dangerous. We built them because we swore that nothing would ever threaten humanity's existence again. General Sora nodded slowly. The Valari made us afraid once. We made sure it would never happen again. Exactly, Hana agreed. 3,000 years ago, we were helpless. Today, we are the most dangerous species in this galaxy. Not because we want to be, because we had to be. She closed the presentation and turned to face the council. This is what the Valari will see when they arrive. This is the truth they've been blind to for 30 centuries. They thought they were hunting prey. They're actually walking into the den of the greatest predator the universe has ever known. Admiral Taiho stood up, his expression thoughtful. Thank you, Commander. This is exactly what we needed. He looked around the room at his fellow officers. All of them were silent, processing what they had seen. Even knowing their own power, having it displayed so clearly was humbling. We didn't become this way because we wanted to conquer, Taiho said slowly. We became this way because we refused to die. The Valari made us afraid once. That fear drove us to grow, to evolve, to become something greater than we ever imagined. He smiled grimly. Now it's time to show them what their arrogance created. The council members nodded in agreement. The Valari wanted to see human power. They were about to see more than they ever wanted to know. Admiral Taiho received the message at midnight. He was sleeping in his quarters on the command ship Victory, dreaming of his childhood home in the mountains. The beeping of his communicator pulled him back to reality. He read the message twice. Then he read it a third time, just to be sure. A smile slowly spread across his face. "The Valari," he said quietly. "After all this time." He got dressed quickly and made his way to the war room. It was a massive circular chamber in the heart of the ship. Holographic displays covered the walls, showing maps of human space and real-time data from thousands of sensors across the galaxy. Within an hour, the council members arrived. They came from different ships and different stations, their images appearing as holograms around the central table. General Sora, Commander Hannah, Captain Minho, and 12 other high-ranking officers. All of them had received the same message. "Thank you all for coming so quickly," Taiho said as he took his seat. "I assume you've all seen the transmission from Ambassador Yuna." "We have," General Sora replied. She was an older woman with gray hair and sharp eyes. "The Valari Empire has declared war. They want us to surrender in 7 days." "That's correct." Taiho nodded. There was a moment of silence. Then, to the surprise of no one, Captain Minho burst out laughing. "I'm sorry," Minho said, trying to control himself. "I really am. But did anyone else read the part where they called us primitive? Where they said we fight with sticks?" Commander Hana smiled. "I particularly enjoyed the part about mud houses. Very accurate description of our orbital defense platforms." More laughter filled the room. Even the serious General Sora allowed herself a small chuckle. All right, Taiho said, raising his hand. "Let's try to be professional here. We are facing a declaration of war." "Sir, with respect," Minho said, "these aliens haven't visited Earth in 3,000 years. They have no idea what we've become. They probably think we're still throwing rocks at each other." "That's likely true," Taiho agreed. "Which is exactly why we need to be careful. The Valari were advanced enough to travel between stars 3,000 years ago. We don't know how much they've evolved since then." "I've been researching that," Hana said. She tapped her tablet, and a display appeared in the center of the table. "Based on the transmission frequency and the technology visible in their broadcast, I estimate the Valari haven't changed much. Their ships, their weapons, their armor. It all looks similar to historical records from the first contact." "They stagnated?" Sora asked. "It appears so," Hana confirmed. "Many species do this when they reach a certain level of technology. They become comfortable. They stop innovating. They believe they've achieved perfection." Taiho leaned back in his chair. "And us?" Hana smiled. "In 3,000 years, we went from the Stone Age to the Space Age. We invented things they never dreamed of. Faster than light travel, quantum computing, energy shields, planet-cracking weapons." "So what you're saying," Minho said slowly, "is that they're picking a fight with a species that outgrew them while they were taking a nap." "That's exactly what I'm saying." The room fell silent again, but this time it was a thoughtful silence. Everyone understood what this meant. The Valari weren't a real threat. They were a joke. An outdated empire trying to bully a species that had left them behind long ago. "We should still take this seriously," Sora said finally. "Even if they're weaker than us, they might have allies. They might have hidden weapons. We shouldn't be arrogant." "Agreed," Taiho said. "We'll prepare as if this is a real threat. We'll mobilize the fleet, reinforce our defense stations, and prepare our ground forces. But I think we all know how this is going to end." "Sir," a young officer spoke up from the corner of the room. "What about the civilian population? Should we warn them? Start evacuations?" Taiho shook his head. "No need to cause panic. The Valari are far away, and their fleet will take weeks to reach us, even at their fastest speed. We have plenty of time to prepare." "What kind of fleet are we talking about?" Sora asked. Hana pulled up another display. "Based on intercepted communications, the Valari are sending approximately 500 warships. That's their entire military force. Minho laughed again. 500? That's it? We have 500 ships just protecting Mars. Our current active fleet number's over 50,000 vessels, Hana continued. That includes battleships, carriers, destroyers, and support craft. We also have the defense platforms around every planet, the ground-based weapon systems, and the reserve fleets. So we outnumber them 100 to 1, Sora said. And our technology is superior. Correct. Taiho rubbed his chin thoughtfully. The question is, how do we respond? Do we crush them immediately? Do we try to negotiate? Do we give them a chance to surrender? I say we show them exactly what they're dealing with, Minho suggested. Send them a message they'll never forget. Make them understand that attacking humanity was the worst decision they've ever made. We could destroy their fleet before it even reaches our territory, another officer added. Our long-range weapons could hit them from here. No, Sora said firmly. That would be too easy. They wouldn't learn anything. They'd just think we got lucky. Taiho nodded slowly. General Sora is right. We need them to see us, to understand us, to truly grasp how badly they miscalculated. What do you suggest, Admiral? Hana asked. Taiho stood up and walked to the main display. He looked at the map of human space, at the thousands of blue dots representing human worlds, stations, and fleets. We let them come, he said. We let them enter our territory. And then, when they're close enough to see with their own eyes, we show them everything. Every ship, every weapon, every piece of technology we've developed while they were sleeping. Psychological warfare, Sora said approvingly. Exactly. We don't just want to defeat them. We want them to know they never had a chance. We want them to tell stories about this day for the next 3,000 years. The council members nodded in agreement. It was a bold plan, but it made sense. The Valari needed to understand that the universe had changed while they weren't paying attention. There's one more thing, Taiho said. I want this done with style. No anger, no aggression. I want us to be calm, professional, and maybe a little amused. They declared war on us like it was nothing. Let's respond like it's a minor inconvenience. Minho grinned. I like it. Nothing would insult them more than us not taking them seriously. Then it's settled, Taiho declared. We prepare our forces, we wait for them to arrive, and then we give them the surprise of their lives. Any objections? None came. Good. Let's get to work. We have a war to win, and I want to be home in time for dinner. The holograms flickered off one by one as the council members returned to their duties. Taiho remained alone in the war room, looking at the stars through the observation window. 3,000 years, he murmured. You should have stayed away, but they hadn't. And now, humanity was going to remind the galaxy why it was dangerous to underestimate the species that had crawled out of the mud and reached for the fanged face. Stars, the Valari wanted a war. They were going to get a lesson instead. The stars outside the window were bright and still. Ambassador Yuna sat in her office on the orbital station called Heaven's Gate. It floated high above Earth, spinning slowly in the darkness of space. She was reading reports when her assistant knocked on the door. Ma'am, we have a transmission coming in, said Jiwoo, a young woman with short black hair. It's from deep space. Very deep space. Yuna looked up from her tablet. From one of our colonies? No, ma'am. The signal doesn't match any human frequency. It's alien. Yuna felt her heart beat a little faster. Alien contact was rare. In fact, the last time humanity had spoken to another species was over 3,000 years ago. She stood up and walked to the main communication room. The large screen on the wall was already flickering with static. Put it through, Yuna said calmly. The static cleared. A face appeared on the screen. It was tall and thin, with gray skin and 4 yellow eyes. The creature wore golden armor and sat on a throne made of black stone. Behind it, hundreds of similar creatures stood in rows, all watching. "I am Keth, Supreme Commander of the Valari Empire," the alien spoke. Its voice was deep and cold. "I speak to the primitive creatures of Earth." Yuna raised an eyebrow but said nothing. Keth continued. 3,000 years ago, our ancestors visited your world. You were weak. You lived in mud houses and fought with sticks and stones. We made a truce with you because you were not worth destroying. You were like insects to us." The alien leaned forward on its throne. Its 4 eyes glowed with anger. "But now, the truce is over. The Valari Empire has decided that your planet will become our property. Your people will serve us as slaves. Your resources will fuel our ships. You have 7 days to surrender, or we will burn your world to ash." Keth smiled, showing rows of sharp teeth. "Do you understand, human? Your time has ended." The transmission cut off. The screen went black. Silence filled the room. Jiwoo was pale, her hands shaking. The other officers looked at each other with wide eyes. "But Yuna?" Yuna did something no one expected. She laughed. It started as a small chuckle, then grew into a full laugh. She covered her mouth, but she couldn't stop. Tears formed in the corners of her eyes. "Ma'am?" Jiwoo asked, confused. Are you okay?" Yuna wiped her eyes and took a deep breath. "I'm fine, Jiwoo. I'm better than fine. But ma'am, they just declared war on us. They're going to attack Earth." Yuna walked to the window and looked out at the stars. In the distance, she could see the lights of human ships moving between stations. Cargo ships, passenger ships, and military vessels, all part of humanity's vast network that spread across the galaxy. "Jiwoo, do you know why I laughed?" Yuna asked. "No, ma'am, because they have no idea." Yuna turned to face her assistant. 3,000 years ago, we were exactly what they said. Primitive, weak. We had just learned to farm and build simple villages. But that was 3,000 years ago. She walked to a control panel and pressed a button. A holographic map of the galaxy appeared in the center of the room. Blue dots marked human territories. There were thousands of them. In 3,000 years, we discovered electricity. We invented computers. We split the atom. We cured diseases that killed millions. We built ships that could travel faster than light. We colonized hundreds of planets. We created weapons that could destroy entire moons. Yuna pointed at the map. We didn't just survive. We thrived. We became something they cannot imagine. Jiwoo stared at the map. "So, we're not in danger?" "Oh, they are definitely going to attack us," Yuna said. "But dangerous?" "To us," she smiled. "The Valari think they're coming to fight farmers with wooden spears. They have no idea they're picking a fight with a species that conquered the stars while they were sleeping." Yuna picked up her coffee cup from a nearby table and took a long sip. It was still warm. She enjoyed the taste, letting the moment sink in. "Send a message to Admiral Tayo on the command ship," she said finally. "Tell him we've received a declaration of war from the Valari Empire. Tell him to assemble the Defense Council." "Yes, ma'am." "What else should I say?" Yuna thought for a moment. "Tell him to bring his sense of humor. He's going to need it." Jiwoo nodded and hurried off to send the message. The other officers in the room slowly relaxed. If the ambassador wasn't worried, maybe things weren't as bad as they seemed. Yuna returned to the window. She looked at Earth below, a blue and green jewel wrapped in white clouds. Billions of humans lived down there, going about their daily lives. Most of them didn't know about the Valari. Most of them didn't even think about alien threats anymore. Space was full of wonders, but humanity had learned to handle them. 3,000 years, Una whispered to herself. You should have checked on us sooner. She remembered the history lessons from school. The first Valari contact had been terrifying for ancient humans. Giant ships had descended from the sky. Strange creatures had walked among them. The Valari had laughed at human tools and weapons. They had called humans dirt dwellers and beast people. But they had also made a mistake. They had signed a truce and left. They had assumed humans would stay weak forever. They had never imagined that the scared farmers who bowed to them would one day build an empire of their own. Una finished her coffee. Tomorrow would be busy. There would be meetings and plans and military movements. But tonight she allowed herself to enjoy the irony of it all. The Valari wanted war. They were going to get something much worse. They were going to get humanity. And humanity had 3,000 years of evolution, invention, and ambition stored up and ready to show the universe exactly what it could do. The stars continued to shine outside the window. Somewhere out there, the Valari fleet was preparing for what they thought would be an easy victory. They probably imagined humans running in fear, begging for mercy. They were about to learn a very important lesson. Never underestimate humans. Never give them time to grow. And never, ever, make them angry. Una smiled one last time and left the communication room. She had a war council to prepare for, and she intended to enjoy every moment of it.